fan. I'm your host, Lucas Wacker, and alongside me is Kyle Cushman, as always, to get you caught up on all the action from the last week of racing. So, it was Ford Championship weekend for the final time at Homestead Miami Speedway. Kind of sentimental, you know, it's kind of emotional seeing the laps wind down in two senses, I guess, for myself. But I'm sure Kyle had different emotions in the final laps as well. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. We've got the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, some silly season rumors, and a Formula One Grand Prix that none of us really expected.
Myself included.
Yeah, was going to be one of the greatest Grand Prix of the year, I'd argue. You know, it was full of surprises this weekend, and pleasant ones at that. So,
for some people.
Yeah. I had a great weekend. I don't know. I'm sure Kyle doesn't feel the same way, but, you know,
Mine
it is
was,
what it is.
Up and down.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Up and down.
Yeah, we watched the race together on Sunday for the Cup Series finale. So
unfortunately, bad decision on my part.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Based on the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did bring some pretty good salsa, I got to say. So,
Not
but
too
you never
shabby.
tried it. You never tried it. So
It's all good.
Yeah. For
I
next
didn't
time.
trust you.
You didn't try. You thought I was just going
I'm
to poison
kidding.
you?
I'm
just
kidding.
All right. So, do you want to start off with the Cup Series, I guess, with the big one? Or?
I mean, we can go with what you want. We can start with the big one and go down, or we can go small to big.
Let's go small to big.
Okay.
We're here for a while. So, it's Truck Series finale on Friday night. Did you get a chance to watch this? I forget.
I didn't catch most of the race. I was doing Rams, or what was I doing? What day was that?
Friday.
The Friday. I can't remember what I was doing Friday, but I was doing something. But I missed most of the race, but I caught the last 20 laps.
Wow, you missed you didn't miss much. I gotta say. Matt Crafton, we'll just jump right into it. He defies all the odds and wins his third Truck Series championship. We had him rank fourth last week, and out of the four championship contenders for the Truck Series. So, and I think rightly so. I don't think anybody really saw this one coming into the weekend. And if anyone bet money on Matt Crafton this weekend, you probably won big, because not many people did, not even the analyst. And Matt Crafton was sure to say that in victory lane or championship. I guess he didn't win the race, but he called out Top 09, you know, just for his comments, but that's not a big deal at all. He's the champion ultimately, and first time in the elimination format, the champion has never won a race the entire season.
Yeah.
And I think that's what caused the outrage on social media by far.
Understandably so.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way. I mean, it's kind of weird that the champion didn't win a race all season and had the least amount of laps led. What was he? I think I have this stat. I think he was he was ranked 16th in laps led and 7th in top fives this season.
Wow.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
It's not the way you want to end a season, no doubt. I wanted to see Ross Chastain win, and I know you did too. But then
I would have liked it. That just would have been the storybook ending, and obviously it didn't work out for Chastain. He still had a good day, finished second, but he in the championship is, and it was just. It was just Crafton was too good. That truck was set up.
It was weird.
And it almost looked like they had been spending the entire season for it.
Yeah.
As if they knew that they were going to get to that point, when for a lot of the season it looked like they probably wouldn't, because they had to points their way in the regular season, and we're one of the few trucks that were able to do that because the field was so much smaller. And then throughout the playoffs, they were able to squeak through, and sure enough, they get to this point and they finally pull it off.
Yeah.
And I mean, props to that team for being able to do it. They didn't have to win the race, but you know what? You make do with what you got to do, and Chastain's team wasn't able to do it, and that was a team that we weren't expecting at the beginning of the season to be in that situation. Brett Moffitt, for some reason, wasn't able to recapture the same kind of mojo that he had last season.
The 16 truck did.
The 16 truck did.
Austin Hill won the race, by the way.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking for him. It's bittersweet, I guess you could say, because he just missed out on that championship 4 spot last week. I guess last week at ISM Raceway in Phoenix to Crafton. And if he was in the championship finale, he would have been the champion this season. And Tory Motorsports would have gone back-to-back, which probably would have defied all the odds again. And unfortunate for that team. But they still won the race by, good margin. They had the best truck by far.
Yeah, that's a promising sign for that team, because in dropping Brett Moffitt, they were always going to take a step back in who their driver was, and they took a bit of a shot on a younger guy in Austin Hill. And it's, as the season's played out, obviously he won the first race of the season, but as the season's progressed, he's really taken another step to the point where next season you can look to the truck field that we expect to see, and we can be, okay, this guy is going to be one of the top contenders if the Hattori 16 remains one of the top trucks, which I don't see why it won't. No,
they've got good sponsorship now with what Hill's bringing over and what the owner's bringing in from Japan. So they've got lots of options, and hopefully they are in that championship 4 next season, because they look like they've got that Homestead Miami track figured out. But that won't be the case next season, because Homestead is not the finale. They need to figure out ISM.
Yeah.
That we can discuss that a little bit later on our thoughts on that.
And just generally, like, we'll see a lot of stuff change in that regard, because we won't be seeing teams hyper prepare for Homestead like we have in the past, with it being the championship race. So we'll see a different Homestead based off of the regular season date that it has, and we'll see a different ISM at the end of the season, because we'll see teams hyper preparing for that race as well. So It's going to be very, very different from what we've seen in the past. It's not going to be the kind of races that we've seen in the past.
For sure.
Both positively and negatively. We'll see how it plays out, but we can't really anticipate the races to be the same that they've been to this point for both. Like there are things that will change because of the placement of the race, and when teams are hyper preparing, we see things like we've seen this past weekend, where some cars and some drivers just have the setup like Crafton did, and were able to pull away from the rest of the championship drivers. Next year, there won't be any championship drivers, so it'll just be a regular race for Homestead. And for ISM, it'll be the same situation as what Homestead's been. So it's going to be a different situation, and I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out, but at the same time, I would rather if it just stayed the same. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I've got like
a nervous excitement to it, Like
it'll be different.
I hope it works out, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just so good here. Like, I don't know if that was a change that was necessarily necessary.
It wasn't, but just one last point on the trucks here. The season long points is something that I like to keep track of, just because it's more of your traditional racing thing. So it's interesting from that perspective, just to keep tabs on it. But it's also interesting because at the end of the season, you can really see if the playoff format is quote unquote screwing somebody out of a championship or something along those lines. So this season, Matt Crafton, as we mentioned, he didn't have any wins. He was, I think you said he was like 16th in laps led, something like that.
It was pretty bad.
He would have finished the season 5th in points. 80 points back of who would have been the winner in Brett Moffitt. So it's not like it's an egregious thing where it's like a couple hundred points back and the guy got hot at the right time or something like that. It's not like that.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole season, Crafton's been in and out of that 2 through 5 spot.
He's just been very steady, like just consistently, like there. Like,
and it's the exact same thing.
But
it's the exact same thing with Grant Enfinger, and Grant Enfinger actually would have been 3rd or technically 2nd because I included all of Chastain's Truck Series starts in this. So, it's just something that's interesting to me, because that's the one thing that I really don't like about this format. It's the fact that a team can squeak into the playoffs, get hot at the right time, squeeze their way through, and then all of a sudden be in a championship race and win it when your whole season hasn't really led to that point. And it's the same gripe that I have with regular North American sports, and it's why I prefer the European model of the season-long championship, and then the major trophy at the end of the season is the championship for the regular season, like it is in the Premier League and the Bundesliga and all the major soccer leagues. The main thing that you're going for is that regular season title. And then you've got other tournaments to supplement it. You've got like your local the tournament within each country. So, for example, in England, you have your FA Cup, where it's all the English teams from all divisions playing in a tournament. That's like a playoff-esque format. But then you've got like the Champions League. So it's not exactly the same thing. And there's a lot of different things that European soccer can do because of how massive it is, because of how many teams there are, that North American sports can't do. But I feel like racing is the one where it can still be that season-long format, and it can be that European-esque model. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I feel like that's just better for racing, because racing traditionally, and what I feel it should be a season-long thing. It should be about your consistency, race-winning ability over the full course of the season, culminating in a championship at the end of the season, rather than trying to force a Super Bowl-esque one-race finale into things. And we've seen the pros and cons of it. The Truck Series race this past weekend is probably a good example, where it's sometimes you get the pros of an amazing finish, where two people are battling for a championship on the race like that. Sometimes you get the Truck Series race, where because of a multitude of different factors, one guy is at the finish 8 seconds up on the second place guy, and if you look at the standings, he's actually the fourth best driver over the course of the season. Yeah. So there's a bunch of pros and cons to it, and there's a bunch of different things that I'm sure we'll get into in the off season when we don't have as much racing news to talk about. We can talk just more about topics. But in the end, I think it's fair to label this Truck Series championship as a disappointment.
Oh, fair. Absolutely fair. Like, oh man, when I was watching that, I was praying for a caution just to give those guys a chance, because it was just such a huge gap. It just isn't what you want, especially with the Truck Series, how entertaining it's been this season. Like,
it's been very good this season.
I thought it's been very, like, Chastain has brought a whole new element to that Truck Series. If he wasn't there, I mean, this could have been Moffat's championship necessarily to lose, because he was just so strong overall over the whole season. But Chastain provided a good fight, and it would have been if Crafton wasn't in the finale, kind of, because those two are going at it in the final laps. But unfortunately, for their sake and for fans' sake, Crafton got out to a big lead and didn't look back. So that's and also Christian Eckes won the Owners' Championship for KBM.
Yes,
and that's a huge achievement for that young man.
Yeah,
just to bring that home. He finished third, and because Hill and Crafton were not in the Owners' Championship battle. And Greg Biffle was ultimately the deciding factor on them making it to Homestead to compete for that Owners' Championship.
Which is a hilarious thing to even say.
Yes, because he won at Texas earlier this season, and that's just...
I still can't believe that happened.
That's just hilarious. Like, I was watching it on the live leaderboard, because we don't have FS1 back out west.
I found a way to watch it.
Yeah, that's smart. I wish I did, but... I was just watching the live leaderboard, and then you just see like him moving up the field. You're like, oh, Biffle, hey. And then you see him in the final laps, he's in the lead. You're like, no way. Greg Biffle, the Biffer, is going to win this race?
Yeah.
It was, I thought that was pretty awesome. Great moves by Kyle and that whole team to put them in a position where he could just go in there and just win the race, Easy does it. So, and Eckes, is going full-time next season.
In the 18, which is good to see.
To replace Harrison Burton. So,
and one thing I will say is just how good the Truck Series was on the whole this season. Just imagine how much better it would have been if KBM was up to the regular KBM standards.
Yeah. Like this was, they had one win this season, I guess, with Gillen near the end.
The full-time drivers.
Yeah, the full-time drivers. And...
in terms of points, they both would have finished 9th and 10th.
Yeah.
Which is very, very disappointing.
Yeah.
When you've got guys like Sheldon Creed finishing ahead of both KBM full-time drivers, when you've got Austin Hill finishing ahead of them, very, very disappointing season for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and I feel like we're going to see a very, very resurgent KBM next year when you've got Christian Eckes in the 18 and good old Canadian boy Raphael Lessard in the 4. And then also not just that, mixing in the 51 and who we'll see in that as well. We'll see some Chandler Smith there as well before he goes full time next season, I would imagine. A bunch of different stuff there. In terms of like even GMS, you've still got Sheldon Creed and Brett Moffitt going to be there, but then you've got Tyler Ankrum, who looked really solid this season. He'll be full time there. Yeah. You've got Zane Smith, who's had some moments in the Xfinity Series as well. He's going to be there full time. So it's going to be another exciting Truck Series battle. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, Truck Series disappointing in the end, but on the whole course of the season, I thought that it was a very, very good product. Yep. Obviously sucks that we can't see it all that easily in Canada, but if you're a racing fan and you can find your way into some sketchy streams, the Truck Series is a good way to watch a Friday night race kind of casually, with not too much on the line, and usually it's some good finishes as well. So
yeah, exactly.
In the end, pretty good stuff.
There is rumored just for the might as well just talk about the Truck Series driver silly season.
Why
stuff.
not? We got lots of time. So
yeah, Ankrum to GMS, like you said, that's a good move for him. He's moving into more sustainable equipment that will probably provide more long-term success.
Yeah, and he only ran 18 races. Well, but he ran 18 races this year with DGR Crossley. So he's going to be getting the full season as well. He still made the playoffs because he got that one win. Yeah. That's a guy that I'm excited to see full-time as well in that really top equipment. Yeah. It is good to see GMS expand to the 4 teams, though, full-time.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
Are they going to do 5?
Well, they've got
the 4 full-time, and then I think it's going to be Sam Meyer as a 5th that goes
in there part-time?
Yeah. I believe it's going to be part-time. At least that's what it's listed as here. I can't see them
4? Okay.
I can't see them doing 5 full-time. That's a pretty big jump from 2.
That's true. I thought they had 3 right now. That's my bad. And then Todd Gilliland.
Yeah, they have 3 cars, but only 2 full-time.
Okay. That's my mistake. And then Todd Gilliland is out at KBM for next season.
Which we knew as soon as the Raphael Lessard announcement was out.
Yeah, also after Martinsville, the way he cussed out Kyle basically after he won the race. So
all the signs were pointing for him to be out anyways.
Yeah. So and then there's rumors he could go to his dad's team, DGR Crossley.
That's a logical move to replace
Ankrum.
The car that Ankrum, the truck that Ankrum leaves behind. That's the one that just makes the most sense because Todd Gilliland is still a talented driver. He won a race. He's not the amazing all-star Christopher Bell or Eric Jones that we've seen in the past for KBM. Yeah. And it's not his fault that he had to follow up those drivers, but that's the circumstances he was in. He didn't live up to the hype, and for some reason, they like Harrison Burton more in that camp. So it's unfortunate for him, but I'm excited to see what he can do with a chip on his shoulder next year, trying to prove, hey, you shouldn't have dropped me. I'm still a talented driver.
Yeah, that one's not been confirmed, but it's likely with an open spot.
It hasn't been confirmed, but last season the 17 was almost entirely Tyler Ankrum. He ran 18 races in that car. And truck. I do that so much.
It's the same thing.
I know, but there's some people that get mad about it. But there was just one-offs the rest of the way to fill the time that Ankrum either wasn't eligible at the beginning of the year or whatever it is. So like David himself, Gilliland that is, ran a race there. Anthony Alfredo ran 2 races when he wasn't in the 54. Ryan Reed ran a race there. And then funny enough, Raphael Lessard as well ran a race there. So it's not like this is a truck that's been like a bunch of different people over the course of the season. It's the same as the 54 where it was essentially Natalie Decker the whole season, and it kind of gets switched around. You can say what you want about Natalie Decker, but it's like 99% sure that Todd Gilliland will be in one of those David Gilliland trucks, because that just makes sense for where his career's at, and I don't see why it shouldn't be. Almost like a John Hunter Nemechek-esque when he was running in that 8 truck.
Yeah, exactly. And yesterday we have a new series title name for this for the Truck Series.
Lovely.
It's getting worse and worse every year. It's just getting.
I get it from a sponsorship standpoint, but I'm not saying that name ever.
No.
And I feel bad for the broadcasters that have to.
Yeah, it's Yeah, that's brutal for Vince Welts.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And Waltrip. So it is now going to be called the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series. It was previously the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series, but we need to add the RV in there just for branding, and we need to make the abbreviation of the name even longer than the actual name itself. So, I mean, I wish they would just go back to NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, because that was like the best sounding
Nice
name.
And easy. Nice and
best
easy.
sounding name, in my opinion. And Camping World wasn't bad either.
No, the Camping World is the one that's pretty good too.
Yeah, those two, keep it simple for the fans. I mean,
like even Gander Outdoors is fine.
Yeah, you don't need the RV and outdoors. Like it's, yeah. The Cup Series is going to a new naming model. Do that for the damn trucks too, because this is ridiculous. Just call it the NASCAR Truck Series. Like at this point, it's just so frustrating. Yeah. But is there anything else you want to touch on for Truck Series?
No, I think that's good for trucks for now. Like we can get more into what next season shapes up to be when we have some more downtime and like our season preview-esque kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think for now we've kind of hit all the bases. We touched on the championship, some of the exciting new stuff that we've got in the past week since the championship. So I think we're good to jump up to the Xfinity.
All right, congratulations to Matt Crafton, by the way.
Yes,
we should just say that.
For as down as we are on the championship finale, like that's just because of the circumstances. That's nothing against Matt Crafton, the driver. He's one of those guys that has been in the Truck Series for forever. Massive respect to the guy for being able to carve out a career in the Truck Series for as long as he has, been as dominant as he has for as long as he has. So props to Matt Crafton on another championship.
Yeah, just two quick stats. He had only beaten the other three competitors once throughout the entire season in one race. He'd only that's crazy. And then he also ties Jack Sprague for second all time on the Truck Series championship list. He's one behind Ron Hornaday Jr. now. So he's got one. He's got time. I mean, he's running out of time, but he still has another opportunity to tie it. And best of luck to him. So congratulations to Matt Crafton. We're moving on to the Xfinity Series.
Yes.
And what a race that was. I know you didn't really get the chance to watch the whole thing, but
no, I didn't get a chance to watch it live. I saw the result afterwards. But I got to sit down and watch the 20-minute extended highlights, and I got
get the gist of it.
I didn't get the live feel of it, but I got the gist of it. I saw some of the fantastic highlights. All I know is that when it's in the middle of a Rams live broadcast and you look down on your phone and you see the Jeff Gluck tweet saying like this is like stock car racing at its best, and I'm like, oh no, what am I missing here? Yeah. And sure enough, I was missing a fantastic race.
Yeah, it was spectacular. Like I mean, I never really get so excited where I jump off the couch, especially for the damn Xfinity Series. But I was so excited in the closing laps. Well, not necessarily in the closing laps, but when all three of them were there. But we'll just start off with Reddick on the pole. They actually did get qualifying in because rain did affect the schedule on the Friday. But on the Saturday, they had qualifying for the Xfinity Series. Reddick gets the pole and sends a message to his competitors that he's here to play and he shouldn't be overlooked, especially after being the defending series champion. And we'll move right on to stage 2 because Custer had a loose wheel.
Yeah.
And that really set him back.
And it was a bad one, too, because you could actually see it from, the broadcast booth and then, of course, on TV.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was just, hopping up and down on pit road, coming into the pit stall, when he had to come back in and change it. So,
tire issues in a championship race? Never heard of it.
Yeah. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
No.
No, of course not. And he did recover from being a lap down, luckily, to keep this entertaining. And, oh man, we'll move on to stage 3 because that was some incredible racing from the big 3. Allgaier was almost an afterthought, and that's what we thought Crofton was going to be, honestly too. But Allgaier did prove out to be that afterthought, even though he did win at Phoenix.
Yeah, there's
last week.
more variability in the Truck Series week to week, but in terms of the Xfinity, we knew that unless one of the top three had an issue, that Justin Allgaier, simply put, just hasn't had the season and honestly doesn't have the capabilities to contend with these top three blue chip prospects.
Yeah, exactly. And all three of them are making the step up to the Cup Series next season. We'll move on to we'll get to where they are going in just a little bit. They were riding the wall like I've never seen in my life. Like I've seen Larson ride that thing, but this was truly spectacular to watch. To listen to the in-car cameras and the throttle that Reddick and Custer were doing to catch Bell, who was in the lead at the time.
Yeah.
And Bell was doing a fine job trying to hold them back. Like, he wouldn't run, like, he tried his best. He's not the best at the high line compared to those two. So he tried his best to get as close as he could to it to maintain time and just block the air. But ultimately, Reddick was just too quick, and there's multiple slide jobs. Like, Junior would have been going nuts in the booth if he was up there. So exciting racing. And when the camera shot on the backstretch has them bumper to bumper, all three of them, and they're just going into three, and they just like go like one below each other, each of the lines.
Yeah,
like,
each line, yeah.
Oh my God, can you give me more of this? Inject this into my veins. Like, it was awesome. Xfinity Series finale did not disappoint, and they had the best race of the weekend.
Yeah,
there's
easily,
no doubt about that. And Custer and Reddick eventually separated themselves from Bell. Just didn't have quite the wall running ability in the car to fend off, and he actually finished like 15 seconds off the pace because they tried to pull a pit strategy where they came in early and about 3 laps before the Reddick and Custer did, and those 3 laps, proved to be the difference, and just like totally fell off a cliff, and he couldn't hold them off.
He also missed pit road, which doesn't help.
Yeah, maybe. That might be a little tidbit. He did miss pit road, and that's what ultimately cost him about 7-8 seconds.
What I found really funny is that on the broadcast, the director cuts to the shot of Jason Ratcliffe there.
Yeah.
And
because
you just
they're anticipating him to come down pit road
because he's coming down pit road, or that's what the call has been. So the camera's on him, and then all of a sudden you just see his eyes go wide, and he leans out, staring, just completely like flabbergasted as to what's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the camera goes back to the track, and you just see the dust cloud and
him slow compared to everyone else,
slowly driving off.
Yeah.
And when I was watching the highlights, I didn't know that had happened, and I'll be honest, I kind of chuckled a little bit because in a championship race where you're the guy who's going in with all the pressure on his shoulders for not having won last season and all this different stuff, and then he shoots himself in the foot by missing pit road and not even giving himself a chance for that strategy to work.
Yeah, it may have been it would have been closer for sure if he didn't miss pit road because with his strategy, he just came out ahead of the two of Custer and the 00 of the two of Reddick and the 00 of Custer after they pitted, and imagine what that would have been. That advantage would have been for Bell if he didn't miss pit road. So it would have made it a little bit more interesting to see those two try and track Bell down in the closing laps, but unfortunately we didn't get that, and Bell just didn't quite have it at Homestead, even though he was my championship pick. So I'm 0 for 2, and you ended up being 0 for 2 as well, as Reddick and Custer had a heck of a battle. Like, they were just riding that wall, and
honestly, that's what I was expecting to see.
Yeah, and Custer actually was in front of Reddick, and then Reddick pulled off an incredible move. Like, he just drove it in there deep, and
he pulled it off at the right time. That's the key.
And he didn't wait. I think he did it with like around 19 or so to go, and left a lot of time for him to extend the gap or for Custer to battle back, but he didn't allow to just follow him for how many laps. He took the opportunity and executed it perfectly, and he actually held on. He got into the wall just a little bit. It made a little bit of nervous moments for that 2 team, and then Custer was trying to chase him down, and then he got in the wall, then he went it up 2.5 seconds back, but then obviously Reddick was taking care of it at the end, and Custer was closing fast, but just ran out of time, and Tyler Reddick goes back-to-back in the Xfinity Series, and great win for that entire RCR camp. Custer finishes second, Bell fifth, and then Allgaier got into the wall late and finished a lap down ultimately. So he was a non-factor throughout the entire race, basically. And he didn't qualify well, didn't finish well. So unfortunate for that junior motorsports team, but
they'll be back stronger next season.
It's with these big three moving up, it's leaves the opportunity and the door wide open for other people to capitalize. So
this whole season has been the big three, Justin Allgaier, and then everybody else.
Yeah, Austin Cindric there too.
Austin Cindric, but Austin Cindric was was pretty distant to Justin Allgaier. He had a couple wins because
just
of
on the road courses.
On the road courses and stuff. But if you're looking at the season as a whole and not necessarily just like the win number, it was really kind of surprising how clear cut it was, being the top three, and then Justin Allgaier kind of on his own, closer to the top three, but not close enough to really contend with them. And then the rest of the guys, your Austin Cindrics, your Chase Briscoes, your Gregsons, everybody else.
Yeah.
And we don't really know too much in terms of what the lineup's going to be like for next season quite yet. A lot of the silly season stuff has yet to come out in terms of who's going to replace people. But all we know to this point essentially is Ross Chastain's coming in full time. Junior Motorsports is basically the exact same, with the exception of that 8-car being rotated around, but that doesn't affect the championship at all. But we don't know who's replacing Tyler Reddick yet. We don't know who's replacing Cole Custer, if anybody is. So there's a bunch of different variables going into this offseason. Yep. But I think it's really, really key that Tyler Reddick going into a rookie battle where he's probably got the worst equipment. I think that's a very, very fair statement to make based off of what we expect the 95 to have next season. So going back-to-back in the Xfinity Series gives him a lot of leeway next season if he kind of trails behind the other two in terms of regular season performance, just because of the equipment that they're in.
Yeah, I'm sure Bell and Allgaier wish that ISM was the finale this season.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for them, but Tyler Reddick is the first driver to win back-to-back championships in the Xfinity Series with two different teams, which I found was pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, because when you think about that, what driver has really won an Xfinity championship
and then not moved up,
and then either moved up or stayed with the same team? It's a super, super rare situation to go from one top Xfinity team to a different top Xfinity team. We never see that.
Never.
We've seen people in the Truck Series go from one Truck Series team and then jump ship to the other or a different Xfinity team. We saw that with Noah Gragson. He was a KBM driver in trucks and then jump ship to Junior Motorsports because of the opportunity he had there. But you just never see somebody from Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series, as a prospect especially, go from there, jump over to RCR in the Xfinity Series still, and then go back-to-back there. That's some truly, truly impressive stuff, because last season he did it as the underdog. This year he did it arguably as the favorite.
Yeah, he's this one I don't feel upset about it at all. Totally deserving. He was a regular season champion as well.
Regular season champion, and in terms of the season as a whole, he would have won the points battle as well.
He would have won how much?
He would have won it by 40 points because of Bell having the one race win taken away because of failing tech.
Right.
So it would have been a lot closer had that win stuck. It probably would have been Bell by 5-10 points, something like that. But illegal car does you in.
Yeah, there's no justifying it. You can't say what if it's illegal, it's illegal.
Exactly. So, same thing for Chastain and whatnot.
Exactly. It's I've never seen anyone run the wall like Reddick. The broadcasters were even amazed by the throttle, his inputs, and just how sensitive he is.
I want to see sometime in the future in both top equipment, Kyle Larson versus Tyler Reddick.
And,
at Homestead. It won't be for a championship anymore, just based off of.
You'll get it soon. It's in March or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, you'll see it pretty quick.
It's pretty early in the season.
Yeah. Oh God.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Obviously, depends what kind of car RCR shows up with. But,
Yeah.
I mean, even in the starts that Tyler Reddick's had so far in his short Cup Series
Doesn't
career,
look
like
bad.
the handful of starts that he had, like he finished like top 15 at Charlotte when he got that start as well. So I'm excited to see what these young guys are going to do next year. It's really going to spice things up because it's been a few years since we had a rookie class that's as deep and as talented as this one.
Exactly. This is going to be the best rookie battle in years. Like,
Yeah, we've
compared
seen-
to Daniel Hemmick and Ryan Preece. Like,
We've seen guys come up, obviously, that are your blue chip prospects, your Chase Elliott's, your William Byron's, whatever.
yeah,
We haven't seen 3 come up at the same time.
yeah. This is a
And
really
all
good
jump
class.
into relative high equipment.
Yep.
You've got Cole Custer who's jumping into the 41 car, which should have been a playoff car. So there's one guy jumping into a playoff car that should make the playoffs next year, assuming everything goes right for him.
Yeah.
You've got the 95 car, which if things go as we expect, will be a potential race-winning car, Furniture-esque, 78-esque.
Yeah.
With that heightened affiliation. And then you've got the wild card, which is the RCR car, because we've seen in the past where that RCR car is very, very good. We've also seen it where it's terrible, where it's been, for the most part, this season. It's tough to get a real gauge as to where they're at because we see some things like what we saw at Homestead, which we'll get to in a few, where that car was really, really solid and both RCR cars were good. But quite frankly, I don't have enough faith in Austin Dillon and Daniel Hemrick as drivers to really give a true read as to the talent of that car.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like at their max, those are drivers that can get you the result that the car, quote unquote, deserves.
Yeah.
So they're not going to improve it. They're also not going to take away from it. Whatever that car shows up with that weekend, wherever it is in terms of race pace, that's where you're going to finish.
Yeah, I agree.
Tyler Reddick, on the other hand, that's the kind of guy that can really take you far. So it's going to be exciting to see next season. But I think that this championship battle that we've seen all season, we might have taken a little bit for granted because it's going to be a while until we see something like this again where it's three top prospects, blue chippers, all from different organizations, battling it out for the championship all season long, neck and neck all season long. So I think that we probably took it a little bit for granted. Next season is probably going to be disappointing in terms of it not going to be like the top blue chip guys who we can go
threesome, you know?
Yeah, it's not going to be the same where we can go, okay, these 3 drivers are going to be amazing all season long, and then we get to see them jump up to Cup altogether next season. It's not going to be like that.
Yep.
It's going to be probably like Justin Allgaier, Austin Cindric, and depending on what happens with that SHR Xfinity car, probably like Chase Briscoe, mix in a bunch of different other stuff as well. But it's not going to be the same caliber of racing next season. It's just not, because you're taking away 3 of the top drivers that this past season were probably Cup ready.
Yeah, I agree.
Fun championship battle. Fantastic championship race. Loved every second of it. Because like these were even drivers that were like hanging in there with the Cup drivers, and we just don't see that.
Yeah, they challenged them when the Cup guys were able to race. So the future's bright for those 3.
Bright and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and might as well just get into the silly season rumors for Cup and Xfinity because they kind of go together.
Sure.
We've got Custer replacing Suarez, like you mentioned.
Yes.
That was broke on Friday. That was some pretty big news. I called it last week.
Yeah, you did.
And I'm, if you want hot takes and you want breaking news, come to this show.
Last week was good for breaking news.
Listen to the green flag, and I will provide your racing insight before anyone else does. So I felt pretty good about that. You texted me that, and I texted you back, so that was pretty good. And then Darrell Wallace Jr. is returning to RPM. They confirmed that this week. Nothing much else in terms of Cup Series. Suarez might be getting demoted to the Xfinity Series once again, and there's some RCR rumors that I saw. Maybe Xfinity car taking over for Reddick for that too.
That would be interesting if that happens full time.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no doubt
he immediately becomes the favorite.
Yeah, he could go in there and just take the championship and become a 2-time Xfinity Series champion.
Could pull like a Justin Allgaier-esque career move.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think he'd probably come back up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Justin Allgaier-esque move where he goes back down full time for this season, see what happens, and then if there's the interest there, if there's a spot available, then make that move back up.
Yeah, exactly. And then Daniel Hemrick obviously loses his ride to Tyler Reddick next season, so he's getting a part-time Xfinity ride at JRM, which I found extremely shocking. I'm surprised he couldn't find anything in the Cup Series, but
didn't take.
Yeah, or didn't take an opportunity at, let's say front row.
Because we don't know what's happening. Because front row is basically the only one that's still available.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's happening there. Because you've got the 36 and the 38 available now, so we don't know if they're gonna, because of the situation with Matt Tiff, we don't know if they're going to slice that car and then go down to a 2-car operation once again, or if they're going to keep the 2 and take on 2 new drivers. We don't know what's going to happen. But if they were going to keep 2, we almost expected Daniel Hemrick to end up in one of those.
Yeah, and it didn't end up
it's
happening.
pretty surprising that it didn't.
I guess he's committed to Chevrolet in a sense because front row's got the Ford, but
that, and maybe not just that, but maybe it's just the, okay, you know what, let's get back in top equipment.
He needs to prove himself here. Like, he has to win at least 2 races or 3.
Because he's running a solid amount of races.
Yeah, I think it's 20-something, 21. 21? Okay. Because then you've got Jeb Burton running 11 and then Junior running his 1.
Which is a solid chunk, too.
Yeah, Jeb Burton's getting a good shot because they had, I think, 4 or 5 guys running that 8 car
this season. They had a lot this past season.
They had Zane Smith, Ryan Truex, Jeb Burton was one of them. Junior ran 1, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting if I'm missing someone. Oh, Ryan Preece ran a couple too. So, they're giving him a big shot here.
Let's see. We got Chase Elliott with 1.
Oh, he
Ryan
ran
Preece.
the Daytona race, right? Yeah.
Ryan Preece with 4. Zane Smith with 10. Ryan Truex with 6. Jeb Burton 7. Brett Moffitt with 1. Sheldon Creed with 1. Regan Smith with 2. And Dale Jr. with 1.
Yeah, I couldn't have named that at all if I tried.
Exactly.
They had a mosh pit going on in that 8 car this season.
Oh, yeah, they did.
So this is a great opportunity for Hemrick to prove himself because he didn't win in the Xfinity Series either when he was down there full-time at RCR either. So he has to win a race in order to prove that he can get up to the Cup Series even, because if he doesn't win next season, I think he's got just this Xfinity career ahead of him, even if he goes
I was going to say
full-time.
he might already.
Yeah, there's a good chance that could happen because if he couldn't find a Cup Series ride, granted there wasn't as many available with those 3
there was
top
still stuff
prospects
available.
coming up, but not probably what he was expecting or what he's hoping for. But it's not that equipment isn't yeah, exactly, and it's not something he deserves, and it's not something that much better than what he ran in at RCR. Technically, it's not that many points ahead. So,
well, yeah, if you look at the way that things finished, Daniel Hemrick finished below the Germain Racing 13.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And he barely finished ahead of the top front row car, which is Michael McDowell, which, I mean...
McDowell only runs well on road courses and restricted
He has
plates.
his moments, but come on.
Yeah, you got to do better than that. I'm sorry. You can qualify good. You got a pole, but that's about it,
I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah. So, Hemrick gets demoted. That's, I'm not really sad about it because I don't have any connection to Hemrick in any sort of way. I mean, I honestly felt like he didn't deserve the Cup ride when he came up, even though he made it to the Championship 4 in 2018. But you got to be able to, that should honestly be a requirement. Like, you got to win in the Xfinity Series before you can move up.
I mean, sure, but I you got to understand the long-term move that was
I know sponsorship deals.
Not even just that, but they don't make that move. They don't get Tyler Reddick because then Daniel Hemrick's still in the Xfinity team, and then they don't have Tyler Reddick coming in this season.
Yeah, this was the plan all along.
It was. I think that it was almost always going to be a bring Hemrick in. If you can figure out the financials, go to a 3-car team. If you can't, send Hemrick packing and go with somebody else, because it's not like Daniel Hemrick's like a young driver either.
No,
he's
26.
He's kind of deceptively old in terms of the rest of the guys.
Is he older than that?
28.
Damn, I thought that I knew it was 6 or 8. Damn it.
So that's what I'm saying though. Like, he's not the same age group as the rest of these young prospects that are coming in that are 21 to 24. He took a longer path. He's older than some of the rest of the guys, and he hasn't been as productive as the other guys. So
simple as that. So yeah, that's about it for silly season rumors. Honestly, that's all I've heard.
Yeah, there really isn't
the
much.
The Custer one was the big one, and that's a big opportunity for him to go into a playoff car. And the playoff battle should be actually pretty fun next season too, because
it's going to be a lot more wide open.
Because you've got Chris Buescher going into that 17 car, and proving what he did with JTD Jordy equipment this season, you could see that maybe he could be that Ryan Newman-esque and maybe point his way in. I'm expecting Jimmy Johnson to probably make the playoffs next season. Granted, the steps HMS has taken this season, I don't think he'll be that bad. I don't think he'll be great.
I feel like there's a lot of cars beneath him that are going to take a step up as well, though.
No, I agree. That's why I'm thinking that playoff cut line will be really close. So if
it's also going to be pushed up.
What do you mean?
Like that cutoff line in terms of points, it's not going to be as low as it was this past season.
Yeah, 100%. Because you've got the 95 that could definitely go in and win a race even, depending on the amount of speed that we're expecting from it, like a 78-esque type of performance. And then you've got, if RCR is making strides, you could see that. And then Custer has got to be almost expected to make the playoffs. And
I was just going to say, let's just look at some names that were below the cut line that you would or like cars below the cut line that you would expect to be in. So you've got the 41, which is the first one up there, and it's the first one that's there. You've got the 48 that you would expect to be back in contention once again. You've got Matt DiBenedetto going in the 21, so that car is going to be interesting to say the least. Plus you've still got the Penske Alliance there. Yeah. You don't know if that's going to improve, lessen, what's going to happen there. All I know is that 21 car, when it was Ryan Blaney, was a lot more competitive than it has been with Paul Menard, and I don't know if that's a drop-off in equipment or if it's a drop-off in talent. And I feel like it's more the latter than it is the first one, and I'm excited to see what Matt DiBenedetto can do there. Okay, moving on. You've got the 37 with Ricky Stenhouse. I think that one's out of the equation unless they pull off some win at a restrictor plate race.
Which is not something that they're focused on at that organization compared to...
I think that'll shift.
You think so with Stenhouse there?
Because if you're bringing in a guy like Stenhouse, that's the kind of race that he can win. So it's not like you're going to be focusing on the road courses like you have in the past.
Right. That's true. Fair point.
That's there. The 3 car, I'm not expecting anything unless he wins.
It's fluke.
The 95 with the alliance that they're going to have, so that's now 4 cars that could bump up. The 17 car, I'm putting that car in there. Or like in the conversation. In the conversation, I mean. If Ryan Newman can get in, I think that Chris Buescher is as talented a driver, probably better. So he's in the conversation then too. There's not much after that. That's probably where it ends. But that's, 5 drivers?
Reddick, maybe, depending on how...
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about Reddick, so I'll throw his name in there. So that's then 6 cars that were on the outside last season that are going to be looking to jump in.
I mean, the top 16 that made it this season was pretty damn good, too. So it's going to be really close there.
Yeah, so like looking at some guys that were in last season that could drop out, you've got Ryan Newman there at the end. That's probably like your number 1 candidate to fall out. Eric Jones, I don't see falling out. No. I think that he's going to win a race once again next season. You've got Eric Almirola and Clint Boyer.
Those are the 2 big ones that could falter.
Who could very easily...
They get shown up by a rookie here.
Quite simply, if Eric Almirola has as cold of a stretch as he did this summer, or this past summer, and he has that again next season, he's not making the playoffs. Like, that's just... Next season, the standard is going to be pushed up.
Yeah, those 2 teams I look at as the ones that could definitely either be pretty good, or they could definitely fall out. Like, I don't know if there's... I mean, they could just stay where they are too, but there's a good chance that those 2 will end up being like a deciding factor. But
then like you keep going up. I don't see Alex Bowen falling out.
No, I don't see any of the Hendrick
I don't
cars.
see William Byron falling out. If anything, I see him taking another step up and probably grabbing a win.
Yeah.
Does Kurt Busch take a step back finally? I don't really see that happening. I think that he stays right around where he is, maybe takes a couple steps back because a couple young guys jump him, but I don't see him falling all the way out. And then you're into the top 9, and you've got guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney. None of those guys are going to fall out.
No.
Unless something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
So you look at it, and you got 1, 2, 3, let's say 3.5 guys that might fall out.
Yeah.
And you've got 6 candidates to jump in.
Some it's going to be left
a much, much better season next year in terms of that cutoff line. It's not going to be the ragtag bunch of disappointments that we saw last year.
Exactly.
It's not going to be your, okay, who can finish 10th this race and finally, or it's not going to be, it's not going to be who's going to stage point their way into the playoffs. It's going to be who's going to run all season and get in.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm excited. The Xfinity Series, I'm excited as well. But I think next year is going to be a very, very solid. It's going to be very different next year. It's going to be a very, very solid year for NASCAR at all three levels.
Yeah, I totally agree. And with that, I think we move up to the main event. You're looking at very one happy camper over here. And
one not so much.
Yeah, one
Where's
runner-up.
Is it back there? Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, one runner-up and one champion over here. Supporting the yellow, got it.
Oh, my God.
I wore it for a reason, This is exclusive content. So, I mean, should I just say it? Because I don't know if I can get through this whole thing without bursting into laughter and, celebrating. Should I?
Just go for it. I don't care.
Kyle Busch is your 2019 NASCAR Monster Energy NASCAR. Wait, I just messed that up. Kyle Busch
really truly hate to see
is
it.
No, okay. One more
Third
time.
time's a charm?
One more time.
Third time's a charm?
Kyle Busch is the 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champion. Oh man, that felt so good to say, even on the third try. And man, that was fun to watch. I can't express my joy after that one. So we'll start from the beginning. Oh, by the way, Truex finished second, long ways back because they don't know how to pit the car. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. Cup qualifying was canceled due to weather on Friday. And that kind of stirred things up a little bit with the starting grid being set by owner's point. So the top four and the championship four started 1, 2, 3, 4. So we didn't have to look very far to know where those guys were at the start of the race. Hamlin gets the pole because he had the win last round and the best other finish in the round as well. And then it would go, did it go Truex, then Harvick, then Kyle? Yeah, that's how it went. And then... Yeah.
Sorry, my mic was off. Yes.
Yeah. And then Harvick would get out of the gate pretty quick. He showed that he had the short run car right out of the gate, and it would continue throughout the entire race. That thing was bloody fast on 10-lap runs. And if they had a caution late in the race, which we'll get to, he would have been right there competing for his second championship. But... then Truex ended up passing Harvick over the longer run in the first stage, and he didn't really look back after that in the first stage. He built up his advantage. Harvick definitely fell back quite a bit. He lost handling on that car as the run went on, and I think that skewed out or trimmed strategy that the SHR cars bring didn't really favor him this weekend, and the downforce that the Gibbs cars usually bring when they start 15th to 20th paid off tremendously in this race, and that showed. So then after pit stops and stuff, Truex, took the lead and then built up a 5+ second gap over Larson, who moved into second because this is his playground too. He's pretty damn good here.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's not too bad.
He's all right.
And then Truex would win stage 1, and the rest of the championship 4 would round up the top 5 with Larson included in that top 5, and then some great battling between Harvick and KB early on in stage 2, like slide job after slide job, those things. Of course, NASCAR would go to commercial during that and miss out on some good battles there. But it was fun to keep track of it on Twitter because Bob Pockris would just tweet out Harvick to third. Kyle Busch passes him again. Now Harvick takes it back, and then we got Kyle into third now. So that was pretty entertaining and some good racing, and resembled a little bit of the Xfinity race on Saturday night, but that would not continue, unfortunately, throughout the entire race. They couldn't maintain it, but it was still fun nonetheless to watch, and just proves how great of a track Homestead is. Just how multi grooves and how what's the word I'm trying to say here? It's like how versatile it is. That's the word.
There you go.
Yeah, and then it just provides such great racing. I think it's probably the best mile and a half. In my opinion, so
yeah, probably,
especially as it's worn with the asphalt and the tires wearing out and it becoming much more of a driver's track. So moving on to the stage 2 pit stops. This is probably where everything got a little bit thrown up in the air. So we had Truex goes with the overcut strategy while leading, because he did have a nice little gap there in stage 2 where he was allowed to maybe go a lap or 2 longer than the rest of them. And then Kyle Busch would take the lead over green flag pit stops as he passed Truex, and Truex was coming off the access road. And then one of the craziest things we've ever seen, I'm guessing, happened.
I was stunned.
Yeah, when Kelly Stavis came over and said, "There's a problem on the 19," I'm like, "Oh man!" And then you're like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "Oh yeah!" And then Truex has to come down pit road because they have the tire switched. They had the right front on the left front and the left front on the right front. What are your thoughts on that, eh?
On earth, in a championship race, do you screw that up?
I've never seen that. Like, in all my years of watching NASCAR, that is something
How
that is so
on earth,
crazy.
In a championship race, do you not put the damn tire on the right side?
Yeah.
How?
There's no real explanation for it. No excuse either.
That's the only job you have.
Yeah.
To make sure you're putting the right tire on the right side. And you screwed it up, which then, because butterfly effect, he then has to go out at a different time. He has to get lucky a little bit, gets the caution, whatnot. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but then he gets the restart, but then he's deep in the field, so he has to chew up his tires to get back, and then in the end, he just doesn't have what he needs in the end because
he had
to chew it up and was playing from behind when he should have been the one who was leading the way.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
All because somebody got lazy and didn't check the tire twice.
Yeah, and Cole Pearn knew it right away as soon as he left that box, and honestly, I didn't think anything of it, but before they announced it, I mean, it was pretty quick once they broadcasted that news. But when I looked at the car coming off of 4 after he pitted, it just looked wrong. Like, it just looked like it was up on the left side instead of down. Well,
he was super slow too.
Yeah, and Larson passed him right away too. So, like, the air pressures, you could just proves how big of a difference the air pressures makes in the right front and the left front of the tires. Because that thing was like the other opposite way of how it should have looked. So
yeah,
brutal. You'd never expect that, especially from a championship contender in the championship race. Like, the worst possible time to have that issue, and that ultimately cost him a shot. Not necessarily a shot, but having control of the championship, because he had control of this race. Like, there's no doubt he had the fastest car when the sun was up, and probably as the sun even went down near the end too. So
yeah, so the Athletic and Jordan Bianchi asked some of the Truex crew members about what happened essentially, and to see if there was like some clear-cut mishap that happened that led to it. And the best we got was from Lee Cunningham, who's the rear tire changer on Truex's crew. So rear tire changer, so he's not even the guy who's at fault here. And he said, we were trying to keep our tires in the shade and it was just a bit of miscommunication. The tire carrier has a certain way and certain order he sets the tires in, and he sets them up there how he likes them. And I honestly don't know how or why they got moved. So we grabbed the 2 tires he thought were the right ones, and they weren't.
Conspiracy theories.
So Lee Cunningham doesn't know what happened because that's not his job to know what happened. He's the rear tire changer, and the issue happened on the fronts. That being said, the tire carrier who had the issue declined to comment for the article. So you can read between the lines and figure out that it was a certain someone that probably screwed up.
Yeah, that guy's got to feel like absolute crap.
If Truex is talking, if Pearn's talking, if Lee Cunningham is talking and deflecting blame and saying we're a team, we'll take it as a team, whatever, all this different stuff. There's not one person to blame, all this different stuff. But then the one guy who was carrying the tires at the front didn't decline to comment. Probably means that the front tire carrier messed up.
Yeah,
But you know what? Stuff happens. It was a super, super unlucky break that cost them
nothing. Truex obviously did wrong.
I won't go as far. I won't go as far to say that it cost them the championship. I'll say that it cost them a shot at the championship.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like if he's up there, he has better track position. He has that front row starting spot on a restart or something like that. Like, he's just there, and he
doesn't have to battle back as much. He doesn't have to chew up tires and use those up, and which costs him a chance to run him down. All these different things. It's the butterfly effect of this one mistake puts you behind for the rest of the race, and you just can't quite catch up.
Yep.
And if that pit stop goes better, the mistake doesn't happen. He retains the lead. He stays up at the front for the rest of the race. He doesn't have to do the pit strategy at the end, which was questionable to begin with, I guess you could say. But he doesn't have to do that strategy where they kind of have to take that long shot mentality to see, okay, we're not going to be able to run him down if we pit it in the same cycle, so let's go a few laps longer, see if we can run him down and see if we can catch some kind of...
I mean, it's a good time in the race to try something like that,
too. See if you can catch him on some kind of strategy thing where you catch him at the perfect time where the gap isn't big enough so that you pit, you get the new tires, you start to run him down and his tires wear off quicker, something along those lines. But if that mistake doesn't happen, you have the fresher tires earlier, you're able to run him down earlier, you're closer to him in the pit cycle or even in front of him in the pit cycle, you don't have to try that long ball mentality. And that's in the end what happened. It's unfortunate what happened, and it kind of robbed us of a really, really good finish.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I thought it was a great finish, but I mean, I guess I do have my bias towards that, but
slightly,
just a little bit skewed. But that was just tough break for Truex. I mean, you could just hear the panic or just the frustration in Pern's voice when he's just like, are you kidding me? Like, we had this, we put ourselves in the right spot, and you can definitely see that those 2 extra weeks paid off in preparation for the car too. And
at least early on.
Yeah. So, I mean, they did a good job with the car, preparing it and everything. The pit crew messed it up, and there's just no excuses, like Steve Letarte said on the broadcast.
Yep.
And he's right. So
it's a championship race, and in this format, it's set up so that all the pressure is on this one race.
It's not forgiving.
And that's exactly it. The way that this format is, it's so that all the pressure is on this one race, and it's supposed to induce the mistakes, because when all the pressure is on, when you've worked all the races this season to be in this position for this final race, it's nerve-wracking. One mistake can cost you the championship. We saw it here, and we saw it later on with a couple other issues, but with some other teams. And quite frankly, the championship came down to who didn't make a mistake. And in the end, that was Kyle Busch, whose team didn't make the mistake. But
flawless.
Let's continue on with the race.
Yeah. So after that huge setback for Truex, he had to come down pit road, get the right side tires on the left side, on the right side, and then the left side tires on the left side. So they got it right that time, putting him a lap down, and he was fighting everything he had there, trying to catch up and unlap himself because he was only 1 lap down, thankfully for him. And he actually caught a lucky break. He was the first car 1 lap down when John Hunter Nemechek spun out. That would be the only incident caution of the day, other than the 2 stage breaks.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so very green flag running throughout this race. So
very lucky on Truex's part that
the one
he
time
got
the
that
caution
one
was
caution
he was in the right spot. So Truex capitalizes on that and gets his lap back, and then there would be the restart, and then Harvick would take the lead from Kyle once again. And then Kyle would regain that back because Harvick was just so fast on the short run. And then after 10 laps, that thing would just fall off a cliff. And Kyle had a good car throughout all stages of the run. And then he passed him and actually won stage 2. Truex came back to finish 4th in that damn stage, which is pretty remarkable. Not saying, I think there was, 12 cars or something on the lead lap when
not many.
There was not, because Truex did so much damage in that first stage, putting so many cars a lap down, that it just didn't really matter in that second stage as much the track position wise. So he got lucky with that. So he did his own dirty work essentially to keep him in contention for this.
Yeah.
and setting up for a 107-lap shootout for the championship because points don't matter. It's just whoever finishes ahead of the other wins the championship.
Which is smart. For all the flaws in the system, for all the things that you may not like about it, at least the stage points don't factor into the championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that would make things so much worse.
Yeah, because it's only two stages, and like if you win both stages, you are in a very good position.
Match.
Right? Like
game set match.
So they've done a good thing with that for this system, and so then we get to the stage 3 restart. I know we kind of jumped through that pretty quickly, but not much happened after that Truex incident because that was just halfway through stage 2. But Hamlin finally shows up. He was my championship pick and basically let me down. Like he was honestly the slowest car throughout the majority of the race, even with Harvick's fall off speed. Hamlin just didn't quite have it. Just didn't have the speed that I was expecting from him, especially with Homestead being a pretty good track statistically and historically for him. So, but he finally does show some speed on the stage 3 restart and takes the lead for a brief moment before KV would take the lead back. So I was pretty pumped about that. And as we move through stage 3, Kyle didn't really look back. We had some good battling between the other 3 for second place, and Truex was still there. You know, he wasn't out of it, and he recovered nicely, and just Kyle got out to about a 2.5 second lead, maintained that until the final pit stops of the day, where Larson and Byron both had engine problems, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, no signs of smoke or anything, or just came out of the blue. They were both 1 minute Larson was pitting, and in I think 3rd or 4th, and then the next minute he's on pit road with the hood up. So, and then Byron was slow on the racetrack too. I wish they kind of interviewed those two because I was curious on what the heck happened. I know that it's about the championship 4, but still, it would have been nice to know what the heck happened.
I mean, like that's just the perfect way for Kyle Larson's season end, isn't it?
Yeah.
All season long, just having the worst luck. And then you get to the track where he's going to be competitive and fight for another win this season after the ups and downs that he's had. And boom, there goes the engine. So hopefully he got all of his bad luck out of the way so he can be fantastic all season next year.
Yep.
And spice up that championship. But
won't even be at Homestead.
Won't even be at Homestead.
He missed his opportunity. Yeah. This was the year he could have done it if he didn't have the engine trouble, and he made it to Homestead. But unfortunate for Larson and Byron, who they both made steps up this season in terms of how their 2018 went. Byron especially, I'd give him most improved, 100% on the year. So just unfortunate for the way that ended, especially in Byron's sexy looking paint scheme. I mean, I love that thing. I know we've gone into that. I absolutely adore that thing. It's beautiful. I might have to get that car. Like, it's just a beautiful. It's just something different, and I like the way it kind of brings back the old school Jeff Gordon vibes a little bit, and then with the lighter blue flames.
The neon yellow numbers with the white car and blue flames just doesn't do it for me.
Oh.
I just think that none of that works.
I love it.
None of it works.
But we'll get on to paint schemes. Probably in year end we could do something like that.
We've got lots of downtime.
Yeah, this is it's actually a pretty relatively short off season in terms of other sports, but we got plenty of time for that stuff. Moving on, we got the final pit stops, like I mentioned, and Kyle and Hamlin decided to take one approach. Harvick and Truex decided to take a different one, and the first one was definitely the better one. Ultimately, Kyle would pit, and then Hamlin would pit, and I noticed this, and I pointed it out to you when we were watching it. Like, as Hamlin left his pit stall, they put this giant-ass piece of tape. I'm like, he's going, and the guy's trying to put the tape on, and he's like kind of falling while trying to smack it on the grill, and he messes up big time. And at that point, you got to use your head and just take the tape off. Like, he covered almost half that grill.
Yeah, when it was happening, I didn't see like the actual tape in the first place. So I saw him driving away and I saw the tape on the front, but I only saw like the two orange, like the orange parts.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was just the two orange stripes.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
you think
and
that's
I was
okay.
like, okay, that's a lot, but
We noticed that a lot.
survivable.
There was a lot of tape on the grills of especially the Toyotas in this race. Like, they obviously had a pretty good cooling system for this.
No kidding.
But Hamlin's couldn't last.
But when he started running around and they showed the close up, I didn't realize it was that entire block.
Yeah.
That covered half the freaking grill.
Yeah, Marty Snyder grabbed it once he came down pit road.
It's the size of his forearm.
It's the size of his forearm on the grill. Like, that is huge.
What's the thought process there?
Yeah.
Like, what is the thought process?
Just
is it
put
so
on a
that you
little
can put it
pad
on high and it stays stirdier or something?
I have no idea because
like, come on,
you can't cover half the grill because that's what they did. And the water was spewing out of that thing like a fountain
after like 10 seconds.
Yeah. He didn't make it long. So ultimately, Hamlin had to come down pit road and take that piece of tape off
and
like 3 or 4 laps after.
And that's the mistake that cost him a chance because when he came down for the first time, he was running in second and he was the one that was looking to be able to run down Kyle Busch.
Yep. Ah, what a shame.
So there you go.
But honestly, that is the Joe Gibbs Racing prides themselves on being the best on pit road. And
2 of the 3 cost themselves a chance because of pit road.
Yep. And never thought I would have you could never predict that going into Homestead with especially those 2 pit crews. And I mean all 3 for that matter. You'd expect that from Harvick's because he just Harvick's pit crew sometimes messes up. Granted, they have been better this year. I find, but they are prone to something like that drastic of a mistake. I
wouldn't say that I was surprised based off of the mistakes because we've seen stuff like Truex's crew. We've seen stuff like even Kyle Busch. Like all.
Oh yeah, no one's perfect. 100%.
Every single crew makes mistakes. That's just the name of the game. Just like how drivers make mistakes. For me, it's the magnitude of the mistakes that happened.
They're just brain farts.
Switching the tires.
Yeah.
Putting that big of a chunk of tape on the grill, but missing where you're putting it and putting it on the wrong spot too low and covering half the grill.
Yeah.
Like those are mistakes that cost you and you can't really recover from it no matter where it happens in the race.
Yeah, they said they were going aggressive. Well, that's another level. So that's as Rick Allen would like to say, aggressive goes around. It's
crazy.
So Hamlin would pit because that thing was just spewing water, like I mentioned. It was crazy, and he had to come down pit road, and that put him a lap down, and he would actually unlap himself from Kyle, but finish 10th.
Yep.
Lowest of the championship 4, and then Truex.
And not deserving of what he did all day.
No.
The first couple stages, he was pretty mediocre. That third stage, he was coming on strong.
Yeah.
And he said that in the post-race, where he said that the car came to life in the third stage, and he really felt like after
the nighttime was the right time for
after
Hamlin.
that third stop, they were going to have, after that last stop, they were going to have a chance. And self-inflicted.
Yep.
Self-inflicted.
Again, nothing that the driver did wrong. Once again, it's something out of his hands, and that's unfortunate for the season that Hamlin had after the recovery he had from 2018 where he didn't even win a damn race. It's pretty impressive. So a lot to be proud of for that 11 team throughout the course of the year, but not how they wanted it to end. And then Truex and Harvick take an entirely different approach. They go long with their pit strategy.
Well, Truex didn't even go that long.
Longer.
He went longer, but
5-6 laps, I think.
He wasn't even he was nowhere near as long as Harvick.
No, it wasn't that bad. Harvick came down pit road the lap that Hamlin came down pit road again to fix the tape. So, so Truex, I think he was about 3 seconds behind before they pitted. Ended up going about 10 seconds behind after he pitted to Kyle.
Yep.
And
he was looking for the caution to get back in it because, quite frankly, he was fading in that third stage. They had to try something. And in the end, they ended up being probably the 4th best car. Even though they started strong, but in the end, they were probably the 4th best car, and that was kind of what we expected going in. Even though it was the only SHR car there, we expected to see the 3 Gibbs cars kind of be the 3 cars at the end. And even though that's not really what happened because of external circumstances and mistakes that happened, in terms of the 3 cars that would have been there, had erase all issues. Say there's a late race restart, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Busch was probably, I would probably say Hamlin's car was the best at the end in that final stage. The way that if he doesn't have the mistake, he would have come on. It's tough to say because of the issue.
Yeah, they're very
and different,
equal. I'd say whoever got out front would have the advantage, obviously.
Yeah, but I would probably say Hamlin 1, Busch 2, Truex 3, and then a distant 4, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, I mean, I told you before the race, I thought 1, 2, 3 Gibbs, and then Harvick 4th, but
still got 1, 2, 3 Gibbs.
In a different sense, yeah, that's true. I'm good at predictions. So Harvick goes to long pit, and that was really bad, like exponentially bad. It just did not work. They were hoping for a caution, I understand that, but at the same time, it took them totally out of contention if it went green, and it did.
Yeah.
And he ended up a lap down, but then recovered to finish 4th somehow. He finished like 16 seconds behind Kyle, but Kyle held on. Closing laps, everyone. I know you were praying for a caution to just get another chance.
I was praying for something to make it interesting because, quite frankly, for a championship race, it wasn't all that exciting.
No, I agree. Like, even coming from a winning perspective, I wish there was a late race restart, and he did. He prevailed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna.
You'll take it.
I'll take it. It's
won't complain.
Yeah. So Kyle held on. Truex got to within about 4 seconds, I think. Near the end of the race, so he chopped it down quite a bit, but didn't get that caution, like I mentioned. And Kyle Busch wins his second championship 5 years after the 2015 one, and great, just absolutely amazing. I mean, he's had a couple slip through his fingers. I mean, there's no denying that. I think he should have more.
Yeah.
And then that's, not biased, honestly. Like,
no, that's
coming
just
from an
genuine.
outsider's, that's a genuine opinion, and.
The success he's had this decade, you would think that he has more than 2.
Yeah, he's the winningest driver of the decade, which is very impressive, to say the least. And
fairly, I'd say that's all right.
Yeah, to beat Jimmy Johnson, and I think Harvick was second on the wins list, actually, for the decade. So that concludes 2019 and to 2010 to 2019, the decade, and some good racing, I'd say, throughout the decade, and
some ups and downs.
Yeah, it started with Jimmy winning his 5th in a row, and then got 2011 Stewart, 12 Brad somehow, and then 13 Jimmy somehow. Then you got 14 with the current playoff format with the elimination style with Harvick, then Kyle, then you got Johnson somehow, and then Truex deserving, and then 2018 with Logano, absolute crap show. And then this year, I'd say any of the 4 deserved it, honestly. So regular season champion wins once again, like the Xfinity Series. So
yep,
Kyle did win the race. Obviously, he won his 56th career win, moving him solely into 9th all time. And now he's chasing after Dale Earnhardt.
Crazy.
It's a big gap, but it's he'll get there, and that's crazy to say for Earnhardt having 7 and Kyle currently has 2. So I know that's a big goal of his to get to 100, and hopefully he gets somewhere near that number, or if he passes Gordon or somewhere around
he'll
there.
have the equipment to do it. He has the talent to do it.
Yeah, he's got the time to do it as well.
Yep, that's the thing that people don't really mention as well.
Yeah,
the
34.
time element.
He's the fact that he's only won 2 and he thinks he should have 3 or 4, which I agree with. And man, I did not expect it. I mean, we both ranked him 4th again. I didn't see it. I didn't see it from his mentality throughout the playoffs and his mindset. And I guess winning in New York totally changed that mindset, beating the guys to the hotel, and he overcame all the doubters and the haters, and he wins the championship. So the mom's credit card was gonna get pretty maxed out here. Let's just say that, to say the least. I know that's disappointing for you from a Truex fan.
I mean, it's a deserved championship. We forget just how team oriented motorsports is sometimes when you just focus on the driver and the mistakes that they make on track and whatever. But his team was the best on the day. His car was the most consistent all day. And in the end, he deserved the championship based off of the format. or really regardless of the format, because even based off of points, he would have edged out Kevin Harvick for first place.
Do you want to mention how close that was?
I'll mention that in a second, but one thing that I do want to mention before that, just talking about the decade and the kind of racing that we've seen. A couple days ago on Twitter, I saw this. Pretty interesting, and something that I didn't really realize when the race ended. This is the first decade in NASCAR history since its creation in 1949, first decade where there have been no fatalities.
Really?
First time ever a decade has gone by without a fatality.
In any series?
In any series.
Wow.
Since 1949. Since it started.
That's a crazy stat.
Because obviously the 90s, we saw a lot of different things with the tire wars, and a lot of ugly things happened there.
Yeah.
The 2000s early on, the 2000s
Obviously
were
Dale
good,
Earnhardt.
but at the very beginning you have the skull fracture crisis, and you have the Dale Sr. incident, and that was kind of the crossroads part where they chose the safety element over maybe some of the aspects that the old school fans preferred. And
which is a right choice to make.
Thank God they did, and you're seeing the benefits of that now.
Yeah.
Where you go an
interesting.
entire decade without a fatality. Because you look across and you see IndyCar still dealing with these things. You look across, even Formula One is still dealing with these things. Like it's not that long ago that we lost Jules Bianchi. Even in Formula One, with all the different safety measures and whatnot that they have, for as rough, as dangerous as NASCAR can be perceived, and really is still, quite frankly, it's kind of insane to think that this is the first time since NASCAR's inception in 1949 that we've gone a decade without a fatality. So props to NASCAR. That's one of the few things that over this span they've gotten on the nose. For all the different critiques you can give of NASCAR, safety is one thing you cannot. They are ahead of the game in terms of all sports, in terms of safety. They've got one of the most dangerous sports to try and make safe,
which people don't give enough credit for how dangerous this is.
And they've done it.
Yeah.
That's not to say that there's no danger. We still see injuries relatively often.
Yeah.
Like even this past playoffs, Kyle Larson was in a pretty big wreck, pretty big hit, and
fractured some ribs.
Exactly. So there's still injuries. This isn't to say like this is like you can hop in a race car and you can drive around, you can get in a wreck at 200 miles an hour and you'll be fine. No, that's not what we're saying. But the fact that we've gone from the risk of death week in, week out to, oh wow, a guy broke a rib, that's pretty big. Or when Kyle Busch had to miss half the season because of broken legs, wow, that's a massive story.
Yeah.
We've gone from, oh my gosh, that's a big wreck, is that guy alive, to, oh my gosh, that's a big wreck, is he okay?
Yeah.
And there's a difference there.
Oh, 100%.
So props to NASCAR. One of the few things that they've gotten right over this past stretch, they've gotten on the nose there. So I just wanted to get that in while we were kind of...
I'm glad you brought that up, because
kind
that's
of
a
mentioning
very interesting...
the decade, but that's
a good stat.
That's some pretty insane stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty insane stuff.
Yeah, and just quickly to wrap up the Cup Series this season, this justifies Kyle's first 2015 winner. No, he's got no. Like
I get it.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot of slack from a lot of people who obviously don't like him, but at the same time, I understand how that could.
It's a combination of it being Kyle Busch and people not liking the format.
Yeah, and now that he showed that he can prove that he can win over an entire season, this sets him apart from the rest of the competition, and he is the only driver left, other than Jimmy Johnson, that has multiple championships, that is currently racing in the Cup Series. So that's pretty crazy in itself to think. And once Jimmy's gone, this is Kyle's series, and I mean it almost is now. So
I'd probably say it is now.
Yeah, it's been a great 2019 season. Not just to say how it ended from a Kyle fan.
It's been a fun one.
But it's been, they've had some great finishes. Kentucky and Talladega, the second race, stand out to me right away. But
great storylines
have improved, I'd say. for the most part.
Mile and a half, absolutely. I don't think that there's any shadow of a doubt that they've improved.
Yeah, and then short tracks, they're saying that they're going to work on that, which I appreciate. And hopefully for 2020, we'll see that level of competition on the mile and a halves at the short tracks, like how it was before they implemented this new rules package. And then for the bigger tracks, restrictor plate, the best restrictor plate racing I've ever seen in my life this season. They've absolutely nailed that passage.
100%.
And then even with that giant ass spoiler, and then
you know what? Whatever works.
If it works, it works.
Exactly.
And then I guess over the 2 milers, they did okay. I mean, you don't expect too much from those. And then the road courses, they are road courses. They're a crapshoot, anyways. It's down to skill at that point.
They're still fun.
So
one thing, So now that we've kind of got all the championship talk kind of done and dusted, one thing I do want to mention is how insane
the point battle would have been
if we had the old format. So this is stage points included, final finish included, just basically if the regular season was extended through the whole season, the way that everything's done there.
Yeah, you showed me this and we were blown away.
So going into ISM, like the top 3 drivers were all covered by 10 points. Coming out of ISM, it was still crazy. You had Joey Logano on top, followed by Kevin Harvick, and then Kyle Busch in third with Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin there. But they need some good stage finishes with some other luck. But it was basically 5 drivers within a 40 point span, all with a shot to win it. That's the kind of stuff that you would dream of having.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about the 92. I think it was 92 when Kulwicki won. So so the 92 Homestead race where there was 6 drivers with a mathematical shot, but there was only 3 drivers that had a legit shot.
Yeah.
And even then, like there was some different stuff. Whatever. Some fantastic videos on YouTube about that race. Incredible race. Unfortunate how things played out afterwards, of course. But if we had that similar format where it's points all the way through, this race would have been similar in the way that it played out. So Kyle Busch, in the end, would have garnered 58 points. He had an incredible day, won a stage, finished the race, obviously in first, and had a good first stage as well. So he would have finished the day with 58 points, which is 2 away from the maximum you can have. And he would have needed almost every single one of those because in second would have been Kevin Harvick, and he would have been 2 points back. So just imagine what this would have been like because of the pit. Who knows what?
Just imagine that stage 2 battle where Kyle passes Harvick.
There you go.
Like that would be insane.
You've got that. You've got the what happens in terms of pitch strategy, what changes there, all these different things. It's obviously tough because they're not cognizant of this and they're not racing because of this. But it's interesting to look at. 2 points back, Harvick would have been, and then Joey Logano would have been there too.
Yeah,
he would have been 9 points back in the end. Truex 22 back, and then Denny Hamlin 37,
That's
and then
awesome.
a massive gap back to Brad Keselowski in 6th. But like,
those are your top 5 guys, and
those are the top 5 guys all season long. Those are the guys that should have been there, and those are the guys that, with the exception of Joey Logano, because of the format,
right there at the cutoff line, anyways, at Phoenix. So I mean,
So
that's awesome. I'm glad you kept track of that because I found that really interesting when we put the numbers in.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting because going in, I didn't think that Busch had the gap. Like I thought that Harvick had done enough to keep it, but no. Like these are the elements that you're missing in a playoff, and for all the things that the playoffs do to make certain races more interesting, to make the final race a must-watch TV, all these different things. I still think that on the whole, you're kind of taking away from the value of the rest of the races by doing the playoffs and doing the other format. But that's a whole nother thing that we can get into when we have more than 11 minutes left to talk about the shenanigans that happened in Formula One this week.
Yeah. So congrats to Kyle Busch.
Yes.
And congrats to Tyler Reddick.
As much as I hate Kyle Busch, congratulations. He deserved this championship. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick. He deserved this championship. And congratulations to Matt Crafton. Though he didn't deserve it, he still did what he needed to do based off of the format.
Yep. So we'll move on to Formula One. This is the penultimate race of the season. And
how about that for a barn burner?
Well, wow. This was a pleasant surprise before the NASCAR race to get you hyped up for Championship Sunday.
No kidding.
And we'll start off with Max Verstappen winning the pole, first off. And getting a little bit of redemption there from last season to start off his weekend. Leclerc has a 10th place grid drop. And then the battle between Max and Lewis that Crofty and everyone else wants to see happened. And we got a great battle between those two. Ricciardo spun I'll go through these pretty quickly because we don't have too much time. Ricciardo spun Magnussen out on lap 8. Ricciardo gets his 5-second time penalty, And then moving on to the first pit stops of the day, Mercedes tried the undercut, and then Max pitted the lap later. Then Max has like a 1.9 second pit stop, which is absolutely insane. It's a world record. And
insane. Like
twice.
Watching that.
He did it twice.
Watching that was incredible. Just because it almost looks like they're still getting the tires on as he's hitting the gas and they're going.
Yeah, no, I saw that when he's leaving, he's spinning. And they haven't tightened it yet. So
or they're in the middle of tightening.
Like they're really damn close. So. But then, unfortunately for Max, Robert Kubica is pitting at the same time, and he's leaving his pits.
Kubica, man.
And Williams lets him go. I mean, it's not an unsafe release.
That's not Kubica's fault
necessarily, because there was a gap, but at the same time,
all I know is when I'm playing F1 2010 on PS3, I get passed by everybody in the pits when that happens. So I don't know why the Williams didn't have to stay, but I have to stay in F1 2010. So I don't
know. So then Max gets completely screwed over there because he has to brake for Kubica, and then Kubica's slow out of the pits, and then Hamilton passes him on the track. So the undercut strategy essentially works, even though it might not have. It would have been really close if Max didn't get held up by Kubica.
All I'm gonna say is, imagine the finish if Max Verstappen wrecks out there, because then you've got Albon and Hamilton battling for the win. Say what happens still happens. You've got Pierre Gasly winning the trophy.
Oh my God.
That would have been the most F1 thing possible.
Yeah,
but,
100%.
But no, Verstappen gets by, he recovers, and then that's when the shenanigans start.
Yeah, so Hamilton gets passed by Verstappen a couple laps, like nearly 1 or 2 laps after Verstappen comes out of the pits. Like that Red Bull was flying. It was super fast.
He was a man on a mission.
And it was clear they were going to go for a 2-stop strategy, which is obviously great to see. When you don't see a 1-stop, you see a 2-stop. Gives a little bit of variety. And then it was a brilliant pass by Verstappen on Hamilton going into turn 1, like around the outside. And he regains the net lead because Vettel had yet to pit then, but he would eventually. Later on the race, we'll skip over the second pit stops because nothing really changed there. Verstappen held onto the lead. Bottas's engine would expire after running behind Leclerc for a while. And that Mercedes engine just couldn't hang on any longer, and that would force a safety car from where Bottas.
So there's numero uno.
Yeah, that's the first. That's
the first
car.
DNF.
Yeah, of the contenders.
Yeah,
too. So, Bottas would park, I guess, unsafe, but I know that they were looking for a safety car a little bit there. But at the same time,
I don't care. Spice it up.
Yeah, why not? It was a great race to that point. So then Hamilton. Team would come over the radio and say, okay, box, and then I'm guessing Red Bull heard that as well. So then Verstappen pits, but then Hamilton stays out on his old mediums, and then Verstappen comes in for, I think, worn softs that he's used previously, but it's still faster than what Hamilton would have had. And then Hamilton has the lead on the restart, excuse me, and then Verstappen is in second, and then we've got quite a battle on our hands.
Yes, we do.
So right out of the restart, Hamilton goes real slow. He waits, and then Verstappen is like, okay, and he passes him going into turn 1 off the restart. Like that was pretty impressive to say the least. And then so he's gone. Verstappen is checked out on those new tires. Yeah. So then we've got the on lap 66. Scuderia Ferrari. The people you don't really talk about, but Leclerc had made a nice recovery from starting, I think, 14th. And
he was pretty
Vettel.
deep, and he had battled back.
Yeah, good strategy.
And he was not having it with Vettel.
No, clearly not. And Leclerc passes Vettel going into turn 1 on lap 66. No team orders on that one.
No, and why at this point in the season? Just let him go.
Race.
Unless you want to save the money, because, oops, guess what happens?
Yeah. Contact on the DRS back straightaway, I guess you can call it. And then worst possible contact that I've ever, like the slightest contact.
The worst possible
like,
scenario.
Both of them. So Leclerc loses his right front. Vettel loses his left rear. Puncture for Vettel. Suspension's completely torn off of Leclerc's car. He goes straight on. He's out. Vettel's out. And shambolic end of the race for Ferrari, who would have been 4th and 5th. Albon was in 3rd.
Yeah.
Because he had passed one of the Ferraris on the restart as well.
Yeah.
And brutal. Just like, of course it was Ferrari, right?
The most Ferrari thing possible.
Exactly.
Like, that's shades of Verstappen, Ricciardo at Baku.
Weber, Vettel.
Like,
they put the picture.
They've taken over from Red Bull, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Vettel, wherever he goes, man, there is some sort of contact. And not to say that it's up for debate on whose fault it technically was.
I'd say both are at blame.
Yeah, but it's racing.
It's racing.
But it's stupid.
But then it gets even more stupid.
Yeah, so both of them would retire from the race, and we get another safety car because of debris from Vettel's tire exploding. That was a lot of debris.
I haven't seen a tire go down like that in a while.
Like, I can't imagine the noise.
Like, just the way that you could visually see it just come off of, like, it was incredible.
Yeah. So then Hamilton from second comes into the pits, and Martin Tyler and David Croft are like, what? Like they're like, what are you doing? Like, we might not even get this thing going again. Yeah. So, but luckily for Hamilton, they did, but he would restart 4th behind, it was a Red Bull 1-2, Gasly, and Hamilton. So we were in for a ding-dong battle with 2 laps left, and Honda had the podiums locked at this point, which is crazy to say. I wish it didn't go back green and show Mercedes.
Formula One at its best.
Absolutely insane race. So then Hamilton on the restart gets past Gasly pretty easily.
Which you would expect.
Yeah, on fresh tires. So then it's
also
Verstappen.
A Mercedes and a Toro Rosso.
Yeah, I guess so. I kind of left that part out. I thought that was pretty straightforward. So then Verstappen's gone. Like, he's in his own zip code.
Yep.
Then it's Albon and Hamilton fighting for the podium. Albon looking for his first career F1 podium as well. Yep. Going into, I guess, the middle sector. I don't know what the corners are called, but whatever.
I'm not good at that stuff.
Hamilton dives it in.
And time out.
Albon leaves room.
Albon goes a little bit wide. He leaves a lot of room.
He takes the normal racing line, but Hamilton, there's definitely a gap there.
You have to realize
the situation. Yeah.
And you can't go that wide. It's the racing line, sure. But you can't leave that much room on the inside when you're battling for second.
Yeah.
And that's something that comes with practice, whatever. But he leaves so much room.
There's a lot of room.
And then turns down into the racing line, except there's a
tire contact. And then Albon spins, unfortunately.
Yep.
Hamilton actually slows down because he's in the wrong gears, I guess. He had to get it going. Yeah. Gasly passes him.
Yep.
While Hamilton's slow. We're going to have to speed through this pretty quickly here, but
it's all good. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah. So Verstappen goes on to win the race, I'll just say. Albon finishes, I think, 15th, unfortunately. And
14th.
14th? Okay. I think one of the last cars on the lead lap or whatever.
Yeah, the only one that was behind him was Hulkenberg.
Oh, okay. And then Gasly and Hamilton had a ding-dong battle on the final lap. Who's going to get Gasly looking for his first career F1 podium as well, and he's going to get it. And he holds off the Mercedes on the straightaway.
Holds him off.
Photo finish. If that was for the race win.
Stroll versus Bottas at Baku.
Yeah.
Except the little guy won.
Yeah, which is great to see. Good for Pierre Gasly. I wish we had more time to get into that, but
yeah, no, fantastic stuff based off of the season. He's had the turmoil he's had this year, the amount of hate that he's gotten this year,
for not performing on the Red Bull. Yeah.
And it's both Toro Rosso's getting a podium.
This
before
season.
The second Red Bull driver.
Yeah,
insane,
awesome.
But then
Hamilton would get a penalty for that collision with Albon. And promoting Carlos Sainz for his first career F1 podium. And he started dead last in this race.
P20 to P3. Carlos
Unbelievable.
Sainz.
So awesome for Carlos Sainz. I'm happy for him. I know everyone is happy for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
And tremendous.
McLaren, man. They're coming back.
I think they are too.
They're coming back. You're getting Mercedes coming back. You've got McLaren Mercedes once again. You've got a fantastic duo in Carlos Sainz, who's a bit more of a vet. And then you've got Lando Norris. So it's fantastic. And just before we end it off here, shout out to Antonio Giovinazzi in 5th as well.
And yeah, Alfa Romeo, 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Great results.
Awesome,
so Hamilton
awesome
would fall back down to 7th. But other than that, that would wrap up our championship edition
This was
of
fun.
the Green Flag, our 2-hour special edition. A lot of fun. So thank you guys for listening. I've been Lucas Wacker. Alongside me is Kyle Cushman. Have a great rest of your week, guys.
Woo.